Hello everyone, and welcome to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at the Necchi Supernova Mark II, and I'm going to show you guys how to use the bobbin winder. It's very similar, if not the same, as the Necchi Supernova bobbin winder. And I've talked about this bobbin winder before because it's, the Italian industrial designers went to great lengths to style this in a way that the bobbin winder was hidden, unlike some of, say, the earlier singers, for example, where you can clearly see it. And so, of course, I've talked about, how this really complex series of this complex mechanism, beautifully made, so that it opens up, it has a position for the wheel that's going to be turning on the hand wheel. And anyway, I'm going to show you guys how to wind it, and then we're going to see how it works. So let's take a look. So I'll go ahead and leave this open, and again, when you're done, we're going to close it back. But you pull down, this latch door has a spring, and then there's another pivot piece that comes over, and it stays to the right, and you gently leave it up. The wheel is engaged, but we of course have to thread it. Now, with the Necchi Supernova, the green and cream model that came right before this one, the spool pin is up top. The pins, I should say, are up top. But this one, they move the pins to the back. And you'll see this on vintage machines, right? Way back here, you can see the needle thread here. So for our purposes, I'm going to install remember I have two spool pins, and I'm simply going to use the extra spool pin there for my bobbin thread. So I'm going to come up. Now, you guys, I mentioned before, I believe, this machine is capable of double needle stitching, and there are two holes in these thread guides, one for each of the two needle threads, should you be so adventurous as to do double needle sewing. But I'm going to use that extra hole over here because if you look at your manual, it will show you, but some of you may not have the manual, and even if you do, the pictures are not always that great. The instructions are wonderful, but not so much the pictures. Okay, I'm going to take the thread, and then I'm going to come into the next empty hole on the, there are two thread guides, one on the back, one on the front. So we're going to come over here, not to make sure we don't get ourselves tangled up with our needle thread. No need to do that. So now you're going to come back to the right, okay? Now, this is a little counterintuitive. When you come over to continue the threading of the bobbin winding mechanism, you're actually going to come right here, and there's a little place to get in this hole. I'm gonna zoom in here. It'll make it a little easier for you guys to see. Sometimes when you're working with thread guides, sometimes, if the designers were kind, they'll put, in this case, a little narrow slit, okay? And you see them sometimes over on the left of the machine when you're threading all the thread guides that go around things like the tension assembly. But they don't. Sometimes, like up top here, I had to, when I was getting this thread set up, I had to actually just, thread it through the hole. It wasn't hard. But this one, they made it a little easier. You just slip it right in. And of course, the thread comes down. Now I'm going to zoom back so you guys can see the picture here. So again, what I'm going to do is I start with my thread, which is on a spool here. I come over, hole number 1, hole number 2, or thread guide number 2, and then I'm going to come back to the right. I'm going to do, as I just showed you guys, I'm going to come over here, and this little slit helps me. I don't even have to thread it through the hole. It just falls into place. Now we're going to come down, right? Think about the letter J. And this is not unusual. A lot of machines make you, go over hill and dale to get to the place where you're going to do your, get your bobbin set up. Okay, so we have a beautiful original Necchi bobbin. I believe these are aluminum, gorgeous, made in Italy once upon a time. And what I'm going to do, if you look closely, you will see that on one side of the bobbin is smooth or just unpunctured, but this side is not. And if you're saying, well, I don't know which way the bobbin goes, in this particular case, you want to look for this notch, this little slit right here. Sometimes you'll have a bobbin, it may not have these two holes, but you definitely want to see this little slit. Why is that? Okay, time to zoom back in. what happens is, and I'll pull this down so you and I can both see, the shaft that spins for the bobbin, you're going to put the bobbin on this little short shaft here, and that's what's going to be spinning. Well, right here, where's my pointer when I need it? I'll use this little screwdriver. Right there is a notch. And that notch, of course, no surprise. Let's see if I think it shows up better in this angle. Right there, that notch is what we're going to line up the notch on the bobbin with. And that's how we're going to get the bobbin to slide on. Oh, one thing to mention to you before we go any further. This, this device, let's get closer still. This device, folks, you notice it has this piece here. When I push down, notice that this is pushing this down, right? If you're trying this and you're not paying close attention to every detail in that manual, you will try to put this bobbin on, and no matter how hard you try, it's not going to work, and you're going to either get frustrated or you're going to damage the bobbin or the little shaft here. Why is that? Because remember, there's a spring load here, so you're going to push down. Okay, now if I push down all the way, I have, whoops, don't want to come all the way over. Now, if I push down all the way, this piece here is getting out of the way so I can get the bobbin slid on. And I just want to make sure again the bobbin's lined up with the little notch in the shaft here, and then we're going to. I think we are. All right, guys, I had to get my face on the other side of the camera so I could see what I was doing because I'm looking straight on and you really want to kind of be over to the right. But I wanted the camera here so you guys could see this mechanism. Okay, so I've got the notch lined up with the notch in the turning shaft. Now, if you just let this go, it's going to put the whole thing back. So again, we're going to come over and now I want this turned again, so maybe it's a little easier to see. There we go. So now the tire and bobbin winder wheel is now pushing up. There's a spring pushing this device toward the pulley of the hand wheel, which is really the pulley. Okay, now we're going to remember we had our bobbin threaded everywhere, except now we're going to come back down, and as we come over, remember that you always thread a bobbin on a bobbin winder from the inside out, not from the outside in, or you can end up with a big mess. So what I'm going to do is I've got the two holes on this particular side of the bobbin, so I'm going to come here and just get the thread through there, just to get us going. Now we're not turning this bobbin winder on yet. Don't do that because you won't want to do it just yet. Now, as soon as I get enough of the thread through this hole in the bobbin, well, it'll make more sense. And you guys have seen me wind bobbins before, but again, this one's a little different. The tie-in designers, like I say, we're getting fancy. Now, look at this. Let's zoom back in. You can kind of see what I've done here. I've come to the middle of the bobbin, and then I'm going through this hole right there. You can see where the thread comes through to the outer side of the bobbin, and then I've got it. I had it. Where'd you go? Come here, thread. You have fat fingers, it's a little more entertaining to do this. Anyway, so now we've got our bobbin, and we have the thread here. Before you turn anything on, guys, and this is true generally with bobbin winding, but especially of this model, what we're going to do is, notice I'm just going to, don't put any juice, don't hit your speed pedal or anything. But notice this nice chrome piece is nice and smooth, and the thread just sits right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to just slowly get things started, okay? And now I have gotten this thread, it's on there and it should not be coming off. Now I'll go ahead, hold the hand wheel, turn just a bit toward me, and it didn't take much. This was snug, this nice clutch washer knob, and I just turned it back toward me just a bit, and now it's nice and loose. You don't want to you don't need to unscrew it. This is all you need to do. It should be. And the needle should not turn. Sometimes they'll wiggle a bit. Okay, now it's time to use this automatic wonder. And remember, as I've said many times, you do not, we'll zoom in here so you guys can see the thread building up. What you don't want, guys, is you don't want to go full bore here, okay? You don't want to break a thread. And believe it or not, the speed that you wind a bobbin can determine the tension of the thread on the bobbin. You don't want it too tight. So let's, we'll get our light on here, and that turns the power on, this particular model. Oh, notice something here. I wasn't paying attention. Uh-oh. Aha. Don't touch that speed yet. Okay? Let's turn the light off so you'll be able to see this better. Look what happened. I've got my thread's threaded properly, but look what happened. It got stuck behind this knob, underneath this, and that's not what I want. That's not what they show in the manual. There we go. Okay, little things like this, guys, I swear to you, can, you'll be going along thinking, what is wrong? And again, the machine, if a machine could laugh, it would laugh at you because it's waiting for you to get it together here. Okay, let's come back. Talk about the zooming in and out here, but okay. Let's see how, now that we have power again, let's see how she does. I'm just gonna, this is sort of what you might call, that's a little too slow. Okay, I've got kind of a medium speed here, not even halfway down, and that's all I want, okay? I don't want super fast, and notice that the thread is sort of waving back side to side, as most bobbin winders do. Don't know if you can hear it. These machines, these Neckis are beautifully, oh my gosh, they're some of the least noisy machines I've ever come across. Of course, in bobbin winding, you shouldn't have that much moving except for the hand wheel pulley. And again, you always want to watch the level. You want to make sure that the thread does not come above the, go past the rims of the bobbin. This is also another thing to look at, guys. Look at this bobbin for a moment. When you see it spinning, this is a good way to check and see if your bobbin is straight or true, or if it has a little warp. This one has a little bit, but not too much. Now, what's going on here? Why do I have brown thread? What's happening here? Come on now, thread. Apparently, I have managed to draw out my brown thread, and I've done it, and actually gotten it out of the. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I haven't. Yeah, I've gotten it out of the needle. Not a big deal, but again, basically, I'm just going to pull the brown thread back, and that way I can. Get it out of the way of my bobbin thread, because I'm really trying to accomplish bobbin thread, bobbin winding, and I don't really want to involve my needle thread. Okay, so I think I'm just going to remove the brown thread, just get it out of here. If I had my brown thread in the outer holes of this thread guide, I probably would not have had this happen. But things like this will happen to you guys. Don't let it phase you. I mean, it's just thread, right? And we know what's going on. You can tell. So we're gonna unwind our brown thread and get it off of our bobbin thread, hopefully. All right, we're going to cut our losses literally, and I'm going to take the scissors and I'm going to just cut my needle thread. I got to rethread it anyway, right? And now, what is my next goal here? My next goal is to get this brown thread out of here. I told you, you know, I should have a new category of videos called the comedy series, because look what else happened here. I got the thread, now it's tangled around this lever in the back that's used for the it's used for the decorative stitch desk. Sorry for the lapse in my own audio there. So again, even the simplest thing like winding a bobbin can distract you. And you know, part of this is, you know, if you're new to the machine, just give yourself space, give yourself permission to not, you know, there's a learning curve to everything. Even if you've been sewing all of your life, you really want to have you have to have a somewhat of a sense of humor here. It's best when something like this happens, the sooner you catch it, the less of a mess you're going to have, because thread has a twist to it, and it will thread will actually, it'll just get worse if you don't see what's happening and you're not really aware of what's going on here. And if it happens to you guys, you would not be the first person that this ever happened to. So again, what we're trying to do is get this last remnant of brown thread without breaking the bobbin thread, because I've got it all set up here. So and that little piece wants, I don't even know if you guys can see this, but there's a little piece, a little knot of brown thread that has decided to challenge my patience. Your patience will be challenged when you, especially when you get a machine. I don't care if it's a new or vintage machine. It's like anything else. It's new to you. You're getting used to its ways. All machines have their ways, and Necchi's are no different. All the brands have their little idiosyncrasies. And I suspect that winding a bobbin on a Necchi Supernova would be a lot simpler if Necchi had just made the bobbin winder simpler, or maybe if I were paying better attention. I shouldn't just blame Necchi, but of course they went to great lengths and expense to hide that bobbin winder, and it is a beautiful piece of industrial design, no doubt. At least to my aesthetic. Again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it looks like I've got it on there really. It's like, huh. Hooray! Well, fingers crossed. I might have salvaged this without having to start over with this, but if it happens to you and you have to start over, no big deal. It's just thread, and you won't make that mistake again. Maybe watching me do this, you won't make that mistake. Okay, let's finish up our winding. Get a little pointer here. All right, we almost have this bobbin fully wound, because again, you don't want to go past the outer edge of the bobbin. That's going to create problems when you put it in the bobbin case, okay? Now, a lot of these machines were designed so that they would sort of stop themselves and it would be kind of like a little pop. However, remember, these are analog devices, so if yours doesn't do that, then you can just stop it. You just watch the thread level. It's not a big deal. We don't need computer programming to beep at us and give us codes when our bobbin doesn't wind properly. It's, you know, use the software in your heads, guys. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I can see I'm coming up right up to the rim there. Okay, good enough. Now, what are we going to do? Unlike what I did with the needle thread, which I've mentioned many times not to do. You don't want to do the thread backwards, right? You want your thread to come out in the direction you put it. So now I'm ready to finish with the bobbin. I'll just cut the thread here very close to the bobbin and save the rest, right? Actually, in this case, it's okay. I'm not dealing with my tension guides, so it's okay if I take the thread here and pull it back because I'm only in the thread. Thread guides are not going to be hurt by pulling a thread out backwards. What you don't want to do is pull it out backwards where your check spring and your tension assembly is. It can, on the off chance, cause damage. So why take that chance? Okay, here we go. We are now ready to remove the bobbin. And guys, this is spring loaded. Don't let it slam. Be gentle. This is a 60-some-year-old machine. You know, preserve the spring, and there we go. Voila. And we have our newly threaded bobbin. Okay, now it's time to load the bobbin case. I've shown people bobbin case loading before, but let's, from the top, I'll just show it to you guys again. Maybe you've never visited the channel, or maybe you're just curious as to how you do this. And it is prescriptive. There is a order and a direction that you need to follow. It's in the manual. If you don't do it properly, your machine will be unhappy with you, and you will be unhappy with the sewing results you get. So, okay, here we go. We've got, what do we have here? We have the bobbin and we have the thread. Now remember, this is true of most, but not all, most bobbins and bobbin cases. So you're going to take the case, you're going to hold it. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold this in my left hand. You would do this in the reverse if you are left-handed. So, and you'll have, just as a reference, here's the little finger slot that goes into the notch in the shuttle. But anyway, so you'll notice, like most bobbin cases, this is a class 15 bobbin case. The overall style of this case was created by Singer long ago. But look here, guys. Do you see? This is if this is where the little finger slot is, turn this way. What you're looking at is this is the top side of the this is like a band, the spring that gives you the tensioning of your thread on your bobbin. Okay, and there's the little screw that is used to adjust it. And I've been having to do a lot of adjusting here. Now, you'll notice that the slot, if you hold it up like this, right, the slot is going back toward the left or counterclockwise. But when we put our bobbin in the bobbin case, we are going to put the bobbin in, and you want the thread hanging on the right or going, is the winding direction of the thread in this case is clockwise. Okay, so you got your bobbin case, you can just put your index finger there for good measure, and you're going to put the bobbin in. Now you're going to have the thread here. So the thread, think of it as you're coming around clockwise. Okay, now notice, remember that slot, we're going to need it, and we're going to come here and the thread's going to go in, and notice it's kind of double backing on itself. This is very common. Okay, and now I'm going to come around. Okay, we're not done yet. Got some good lighter though. Okay, so we got into the slot, and now we're coming up this way. We're coming around, and you'll kind of feel the thread sort of stop when it gets to right here. And I'm going to hang it on the left side of the little finger there. This should be good to go. We should be ready. And we'll know, because if I didn't do this properly, I can promise you this machine will tell me. Any sewing machine will. it won't make a good stitch. So, all right, let's see about getting our bobbin case back loaded into the machine. All right, and of course, well, what do we need to do now? Now I need to go back and rethread the need to rethread my needle because I ended up crossing over my needle thread or my top thread when I was winding the bobbin. The machine is designed to have your needle thread in place, but things kind of got our wires crossed, or I got my wires crossed, put it that way. Okay, so I'm going to take, I've got my spool back here. I'm going to come up, and I think this time I'll use the outer hole on the thread guide for my needle thread. That way, when I want to use the inner hole in the thread guide, hopefully when I need to wind a bobbin again, it will not create the rat's nest mess that I just created for you guys. But then, if those things didn't happen in these videos, I mean, come on, where would the comedy be? You have to be able to laugh at yourself, and if you can, then learning a new machine or learning how to wind a bobbin on a 1959 Necchi will not drive you crazy. Modern machines can also drive you crazy, but they have different problems and issues, which are not the mission of this channel. There are lots of channels that talk about modern machines and how they work. If you have a modern machine, maybe you find this. Many sewers have both. They have vintage and modern machines. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and include in this video. We'll talk about. I'm going to turn this light off. It's more of a glare than anything else when I'm trying to pick this up on the camera. And let's lower the camera here, make it easier for you guys to see. I love the paint condition on this machine. It is striking. It's so mint. There's one little spot back here. Why, I don't know. It's kind of an odd spot. Who knows? But honestly, this machine is one of the most mint in terms of paint. And I typically see this more in machines that were in cases than tables, but there are exceptions to all of this. Okay, remember, if you guys have forgotten, notice that that's down, this is up. Always make sure that your presser foot is in the up position when you go to thread your machine, because when you come into this area where your check spring is and your tension assembly, you don't want the foot down because it's gonna throw off and screw up your thread tension. Dropping tools is it's kind of par for the course with this hobby. So any of you who've watched my channel for a long time, I don't know, maybe you've kept count of all the tools I've dropped on the floor. Anyway, let's go and get busy with this. I'm going to be turning the machine. That's why we had a tool drop on the floor in the first place. I need you guys to see this from different angles, so it'll make more sense when I'm threading. Every machine, even within a brand, different models have their own threading process or different steps, right? They all vary a little bit sometimes. Don't let that throw you. Okay, pointer please. Right here is a lovely smooth chromed or nickel plated piece of metal, and it's there for a reason. It's not there just to be pretty, although I couldn't blame you if you thought it was. And there's tool number 2, of course. All right, now when you take your thread, okay, not all machines have this, but it's nice to have if you do. You push the thread against this piece and you simply slide it down, and it's basically a handy dandy helper. It helps you know that you've got the thread in the right spot. Now you have to hold on to the thread, right? You have to hold, you don't want the thread to keep coming as you're pulling it, because you want to come around, okay? And as you do, you're gonna feel some resistance, and then all of a sudden it should let go, and that means that the thread has slid around onto your check spring. And now we're gonna go turn the machine again. Now let's get a nice close view of this. That's why we're all magnified here, because it's very hard to see. I can describe this to you, but it's not always an easy thing to find. All right. Notice this is the little valley where the thread is going to be kept from flopping down. And because I've already come around before, let's see here. And you want to be careful, because remember, you got this guide that we're going to deal with in a minute. But I want you guys to look, and right here, do you see this? This is your check spring. If I can, there we go. Right there, guys. Okay? So, notice when I pull up on the thread, it pulls on the check spring, as it's supposed to. All right. Turning back. By the way, when you're doing this, you won't be turning your machine and twirling it around on the table like I'm doing. I'm doing this because I'm trying not to, I would just simply move my vision, my eyes around to do this, but I'm trying to give you guys less camera movement here. Okay, so remember, coming down, we want this thread to have a place to sort of, this big giant guide here, just kind of hold it in place. So now I'm going to come, again, behind my tension dial there, and I'm going to bring the thread as it goes up behind this same sort of big giant guide. So you got a thread coming down from the top thread guide right here, and we're coming down in sort of a J pattern. And now once we got our check spring engaged, we're going to come back into that same guide, because this guide is wide enough to hold two. Make sure, always, make sure I tighten my clutch washer knob back so I can get my needle and take-up arm to move. This is your take-up arm. Make sure it's in the highest position, and we're going to come in from right to left, and then we're going to come down. The threading machine is like going back and forth and up and down. It's pretty common. And I'll show you guys, because this machine, you don't come on top. You'll remember this from another video. That was another of my comedy series. What you're going to do is you are going to come behind this piece, okay? And then when you do, it will hold your thread. Now your thread is going to be, I think I've shown this before, but it doesn't hurt to show it again. It's going to be right behind this notch. There's this piece, there's an opening, and then there's this other part of the thread guide here. And as the thread slides behind this, you're going to come all the way back and lock it behind here, right there, so that it stays. And now you're ready to keep coming on down. Now I'm going to be, you guys can see what's behind me here, or what's behind the door. All right, let's come back. Now, I'm going to come down. Don't forget, I've got to lower the camera here again. All right, if you look right here, there is a thread guide. There's two, because remember, it's for double needle stitching if you so desire. So I'm just going to come and get my first thread guide there. I just need one. Now that I have that, my next duty is to get my needle threaded. This machine, like many from the period, it threads from left to right. Many of them do. And I'm not going to use the automatic needle threader this time. I'm going to see if I have it in me to thread my needle without the help of that needle threader. Let's see if I can pull that off. And there we have it, guys. I have threaded without the needle threader. The needle, I've already gotten through my upper tension here, so I'm not worried about the presser foot being down. Now, what do I need to do? I need to pull up, of course, my bobbin thread, and there it is. Voila. Okay, we now have a loaded bobbin. One of the great things about Class 15 bobbins, they hold more thread than any other bobbin from the vintage sewing machine world that I know of. And again, I'm talking about house or home or domestic machines. Industrials are different, a little bit different. You have different bobbin sizes with those for the most part. Now, and there you go, guys. We have threaded the bobbin winder. We have wound a bobbin. We have removed the bobbin, installed the bobbin, and gotten the top thread re-put. I've had to rethread the machine, and you might too. But again, if you do, then just rethread it. No harm, no foul. And this Supernova Ultra Mark II by Necchi hopefully is going to be ready to sing once again. We're getting close. Thanks for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for the next video on the channel here. If you subscribe, you can click on the little bell symbol, and it will let you know when the next video posts. Thanks for watching.